Hello and welcome back to the Alt. Thank you for joining me again today. I am your host, Shapirian. Excited to be back with you talking trade requests, trade needs, big shockers, my favorite tweets of the week, all of that coming up in today's episode. Before we get into it, if you could please do me a favor, check and see if you're subscribed to the channel. And if you're not, please consider doing so. I would greatly appreciate it. If you're listening on Spotify by chance and you're enjoying it, please consider leaving me a 5-star review. If you have anything else to say to me, you can follow me at the Alt NFL. Leave a comment down below if I missed something, or if anything I said struck a nerve with you, or anything of the sorts. The biggest story as of right now in the NFL has to be something that broke on Tuesday. Davante Adams has essentially requested a trade from the Las Vegas Raiders. He's let it be known he would prefer to be traded, and that is the exact verbatim being used. I think there are rules against demanding trades, even though people do it all the time, and even though they will always do it, and even though we should all be a little bit less babies about it, it's fine. I have a couple things I want to say about it. I'm going to first talk about the logistical current 2024 landscape side of things and how this could shake things up, some potential suitors, and then I have an opinion on the Davante Adams situation that I'll share at the end of the bit. First, let's talk potential trade suitors for him and which ones I like and which ones I don't like. I'm going to talk about one that is by far my number one favorite trade suitor for him that I looked around, I saw one other place mention this one as a suitor. I'm like, okay, glad it's not just me. But I haven't really seen anyone talk about them so far, and I don't know why, because this could be a really sexy trade if they could pull it off. My number one potential trade suitor for Davante Adams is the New Orleans Saints. Now, they would have a heck of a time getting this to work out because they have been in a cap nightmare situation for years now that doesn't seem to be getting any better. And I fully understand that. I get it. But listen, I'm a proponent of the cap is not real. Every dollar eventually hits. That's cool. I get it. Deshaun Watson is in, year 3 of a historically bad contract, and they still haven't had it affect the cap hardly at all. And I'm sure they're going to, stretch that out as long as possible down the line, and it's going to be fine. But anyways, looking past that, it's pretty much already well known at this point. If you read into, what the experts think about it, whoever takes on Davante Adams and gets him is not likely to have to deal with a lot of his contract situation. In fact, it's expected that, especially if you can provide some sort of a premium in the trade, like more than the second plus a little bit that they're asking, like maybe a first, right? Although nobody goes for first these days. Then you could probably get the Raiders to keep a lot of it. I think the Saints could be elevated to, a team that I'm going to fade a lot less than I'm going to down the line if they could get a guy like him. And it's not to say that, wide receiver play has been an issue. I trust Olave, I trust Shaheed in that offense. And it's not that that's their major issue, but when you're talking Davante Adams, a consensus top 5 to 6 receiver even still in the NFL, that's a completely different conversation than what we've been having with the Saints. And I think that would be massive. Plus, we already know the guy wanted to go play with his college buddy. Go play with your college buddy then. Fine, have fun for, at least one more season in New Orleans doing it. See if you can't make a playoff push or something, because it doesn't seem like Vegas is going to be doing that. Even though, hey, they're 2-2 right now. Anything could happen. I'm a little surprised this came out now when it did. Moving on to another team. Talking about old buddies and things like that. I did see this one getting thrown around, and it seems less and less crazy as time moves forward. For a few reasons. Give me the New York Jets as a potential Davante Adams landing spot. Look, I get it. The Jets have Garrett Wilson. The Jets have Allen Lazard. And I get that they seem comfortable with their group of guys. And Lazard has been out playing Garrett Wilson this season so far, which is very strange and not a development I expected to occur. But it's becoming more and more obvious as we see Rodgers and Wilson on the field at the same time. There seems to be a disconnect there. And it's not to say that they don't like each other or they hate each other or anything like that. Chemistry is a natural thing in sports. There's some people you just kind of fit with naturally, and some people you just can't get it to work with. The latter of those two is a lot less common, but it does happen. And it just seems like there's been some miscommunications between the two of them this season, and for one reason or another, it's not working out for 2 straight years now. Granted, last year it's not really fair to dig into this, but for 2 straight years now, we're like, Garrett Wilson is going to explode because of this connection with his quarterback. Last year was what it was. Nobody could help that. This year, though, okay, this is year 3 Garrett Wilson. Think about year 3 Justin Jefferson. Think about year 3 Jamar Chase. At that point, were they looking like this, especially with their quarterbacks, right, that they had trust in, Kirk, Joe, things of that nature? And you're telling me, is Aaron Rodgers right now the equivalent of a 2022, 2023 Joe Burrow? No one's saying that. Nor are they saying that he has to be. He's 2022, 2023 Kirk Cousins, though, and Garrett Wilson is a guy that we believe has that talent. I'm not saying they're going to move off of him in this trade at all. I'm just saying, don't let the fact that they have Garrett Wilson make you say no to Davante Adams if you can afford it and swing it cap-wise. Because look, Sam Reddick never reported. Maybe Vegas wants to give him a contract. And for what it's worth, those fines are getting crazy, and they are not waivable fines, which I can't believe. You hear about these fines that NFL players have to pay. He's racked up all these fines. They never have to pay him. They always waive him once the deal gets done for the holdout, stuff like that. No. It's not possible. These are not waivable fines that Hassan Reddick has. Millions of dollars worth of fines. He's going to want a bag. I could see Vegas moving off of their premium offensive player for a premium defensive player alongside Max Crosby at a position that, maybe isn't as sexy, but can still be productive. They probably want to get younger. I'm not sure that's going to be the move. I'm just saying, Jets could swing something to put something together. Maybe see what can happen in that regard. I'm going to give you one more team that I think is an obvious, in my opinion, trade destination for Davante Adams. And then I'm going to get into one that should not even get close. And if it happens, it is malpractice on the part of the NFL. First, let's talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers. Duh. Do I need to explain this one? Probably not. You're listening to the Alt. You're a smart NFL viewer. You know enough about ball to know. Okay. Steelers could use some help on offense. As a matter of fact, if they get some help on offense, if they have a league average offense going into the playoffs, I'm probably like, ugh. This is a team that, I'm not going to bet against in the divisional round necessarily just because defense tends to show up in the playoffs. It's great. They need the help. Davante Adams immediately brings new life to this offense, could immediately be utilized in a way that we've not seen them utilize anyone since Antonio Brown. And I get that it's like, Antonio Brown had a godly NFL career, but Davante Adams is in that category of player, in that category of receiver. And if nothing else, he requires enough gravity, he pulls enough attention that he would open it up for George Pickens, Freiermuth, Jalen Warren coming out of the backfield, things of that nature. Once everyone is healthy and once everyone is rolling on this offense again. What I want to say before I move on from this particular subject is I don't see this happening. I think there's a 1% to 2% chance of this happening. I should probably stop saying that on this show, by the way, because that stuff tends to keep happening. But look, people have been saying up and down, Chiefs need a receiver, Chiefs need a receiver. I don't disagree, although I kind of do. They can win without a receiver. They've shown that already, but they could use that number one guy with Rashee Rice likely gone for the season. Not confirmed, but likely. And we know now that, okay, well, Davante Adams wants out. Could he go to the Chiefs? If the Las Vegas Raiders give a guy who, for all intents and purposes, is not yet in the twilight of his career and is still a premium wide receiver, which is a premium position, to a division rival in the Chiefs, someone in the NFL needs shot for allowing that to happen. Okay? That is worse than CP3 to the Lakers, which got vetoed for reasons of this makes no sense. You can't let that happen. So I don't think it's going to happen, but the Chiefs have been very aggressive at getting the deals done that they need mid-season during this dynasty run of theirs, and I could see them trying it if nothing else. They'll at least call. They'll see what happens. So with that said, no predictions to be made about it yet, but something to keep an eye on. I do think he gets traded by the deadline. I do. They're not asking a lot for him. I think they'll figure it out. I think he's going to go somewhere. And as a Cincy fan, I'm inclined to say I really hope it's not Pittsburgh, because if not, have fun in the AFC North. All right, to move on from that and get into the last bit of the show here, I'm going to talk about the best tweets I could find from week 4. This has been a fun little weekly thing that I've been able to implement because there's such an information overload out there that I'm happy to be able to curate some and be like, ooh, that's good. Ooh, that's worth talking about. Ooh, you can have a conversation about that. And I think I've succeeded in finding a few this week. Let's start with a tweet about everyone's favorite surprise of the NFL season. If you're not a fan of him, you're probably tired of hearing about him already. I apologize, but you have to talk about him right now because talking about him in December is not guaranteed to be a thing we're going to be doing. Give me a tweet about the Minnesota Vikings. Look at this from @Krauserific on Twitter. He says, I've been following DVOA stats for roughly 20 years. As far as I can remember, this is the first time the Vikings have ever been number 1 overall in total DVOA, even for a single week midseason. Now, I cannot confirm or deny if that is true, but listen, it adds up, and it just backs up what I've been saying about the Vikings so far this season anyways. The reason I felt like they are legit, which is it's both sides of the ball, and they're being schemed into a galaxy brain level by Brian Flores and Kevin O'Connell. Not necessarily in that order, by the way. No disrespect to Kevin O'Connell. But it just seems like the reason I feel like it's legitimate, the reason I feel like they're going to be a real threat down the line is because they're doing it on both sides of the ball. It's not just one side. It's not just one player. You look at the team, you think of the Vikings. Who do you think of? Justin Jefferson. Yes, and he is still the go-to guy. But look, they got back Jordan Addison this week. What did he do? He scored immediately for them. Why? Well, Justin Jefferson's over there, and so it's a little less crowded over here as a result. Things of that nature. And it's just a great team effort overall. That's a great looking group of teams up there. Baltimore, New Orleans, who is still riding off the high of those first few weeks, has came back down to earth despite the fact that they've still had a very good defense. Seattle, Detroit, Buffalo, San Francisco. These are world-beating teams that are in this conversation. Minnesota right now in terms of DVOA, a great stat to get the overall health of your team. Minnesota's the best in the game right now. Not surprising to me one bit. Moving on now to something a little bit different. A little less fun of a situation on a 2-2 team, and it's just to highlight the way we cover and talk about the NFL and how it's not really fair. Chiefs are 4-0, the Eagles are 2-2, and you're like, whoa, why is he talking about these two teams together? Well, that's because they have quarterbacks who are the heart and soul of their team. One is the best in the league, one is, in that top tier or so, not necessarily near Mahomes, but a very good quarterback in Jalen Hurts. Look at this tweet from a hilarious username of @that_Hurts. Through 4 games this season, Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts are tied in completion percentage. Jalen Hurts has more passing yards. They have the same amount of total touchdowns. Jalen Hurts always has those rushing touchdowns, right? 4 picks thrown from Hurts. Not great, it's not ideal, but Mahomes has 6? Is that true? Hold on a minute. That doesn't feel true. We're going to do some quick fact checking that I should have done before the show already. Because does he have 6 picks? No, he's got 5. I'm out here using a fraudulent tweet. Now I can't even trust this whole thing. Maybe they're counting one that's been thrown back or called back or whatever. I don't know. I knew that didn't seem right. The quarterback rating, I think that means passer rating. The passer rating is accurate, I can tell you that. It's not quarterback rating like ESPN's. Regardless, my point was still going to stand because it is valid even if they had a wrong stat on there, darn it. Jalen Hurts, and specifically the Eagles, are catching a world of grief right now from everyone who talks about sports, and I understand it to a degree. It's frustrating, and they have these, abrasive fans who talk a ton, and I get it. But listen, guys, the Eagles are going to be just fine because they're still finding ways to get it done right now. Just like the Chiefs, granted they've won 2 more games, they've got it done 2 more times. They're getting it done right now. Mahomes has looked so painfully average, it's not even funny. My point of this one and why I'm highlighting is just to say that. Calm down with the Eagles. Let's figure it out. We just heard Treads talk about, no Adams, no Smith, things of that nature. Or not Adams, no Brown, no Smith, things of that nature. Dallas Goedert is leading the league at his position in target share right now. It's not the way the offense is intended to look. No disrespect to Goddard, he's a very good tight end. They're going to figure it out. They're going to be a relevant team this season. Whether they make the playoffs or not, they're not going anywhere. Let's just not quite hit the panic button on Philly just yet. One more tweet here before I wrap up things for this particular episode of the Alt. And this one, it's fun. I'm going to do you a bit of a favor before I throw this on the screen. It's got all 32 teams represented. I just want to talk about one of these teams. I'm going to show you a graph. All 32 teams are on it. The best teams are in the upper right of the graph. The worst teams are in the bottom left. And essentially, it's offense this way, defense this way. So that's why you want to be upper right? You want to be good at both. Take a look at this tweet from @FBallInsights, Football Insights on Twitter. Here it is. Look at the Washington Commanders in terms of EPA leaders right now. They're killing it on offense. They are almost a full 0.1 EPA, that's per play, I believe, better than any team in the NFL on offense. And yet, somehow, despite the fact that they are 3-1, despite the fact that every team that they've beaten is above them, despite the fact that, the team they lost to has been very average in both regards, they are dead last in defensive EPA. That's crazy. It makes me want to say this in terms of Washington. It's fun. It's exciting. I told you yesterday I'm comfortable with them in the lead in the NFC East and seeing them staying there. But we're going to have to pump the brakes for a little bit. Because eventually, someone's going to figure out that offense. You're going to have a cool 17-point game and have to try to find a way to win. My concern moving forward with them just comes down to that defense and whether or not they can keep them in close games and get the job done. Talk about the trade deadline coming up soon. I talked about teams that might need to make a trade. The reason I'm talking about this graph, they need to go get someone. And there's rumors about Deron Payne, potentially Jonathan Allen, both of them, being available on the trading block come deadline time. That's fine if you want to do that. Not both of them, in my opinion, but one of them, sure. I'll tell you this, though. It better be for another defensive player. And it better buff up your secondary or your linebackers because it's just not going to work. It's not going to work long term, and you're going to be in it come December and need to win a close game at some point. Washington, your offense is amazing. You need to buff up the defense or just figure it out schematically. It's the Dan Quinn defense. They need to start playing like it. With that said, that wraps up this episode of The Alt. Thank you if you made it this far into the episode. I appreciate you. I love you. I don't take it for granted. Check and see if you're subscribed for me if you don't mind. With that said, I'll be back tomorrow. Uni Talk of the Week, Thursday night preview, talking about some other big stories as we head into week 5 already of the NFL season. Can't believe it. I've had a blast doing this. I'm not going anywhere. It's going to be a good time all the way through January, through February for the Super Bowl, I suppose, and nothing else. So please, join me back tomorrow. That is it for this one, though. Look forward to seeing you back in tomorrow. God, that was an awkward end of the episode. I'll see you tomorrow.